welcome everybody to a very special live stream. We are honored to have the mother of Texas whiskey with us today, Miss Marcia Likarish. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a
It's a
pleasure's all
pleasure and an
mine.
honor. It's a pleasure and honor. All right. All right, folks. I know probably several of you have a lot of questions you want to ask Miss Marcia. We're going to start the interview first. We will have a Q&A for everybody uh, in a little bit. But Miss Marcia, if you would, just kind of give us a little bit of background of who Marcia Likarish is.
Well, I am the mother of the founders of Ironroot, and it wasn't where I began my career. I
Hmm.
was actually I'm a speech pathologist, and for over
Hmm.
20 years, I worked with preschool children with disabilities. And my husband's in the mining business, so I always say my kids are like army brats. We move from place to place. And finally, the last place we were was in Illinois, and he was working in St. Louis. And I said, I am not doing one more recertification here. I'm done. I've done that too many times. So I was working with him with his. With our mining, and we have some business in with mining and metals trading, and I was working with him with that, and then when Robert and Jonathan decided that this is the way they'd like to go. Uh, Robert was living in St. Louis, and at the time he was finishing law school, and the day we were packing up his stuff to move out. We went out to dinner. We came back, and his whole apartment burned to the ground, and he
Oh,
lost everything he owned. And so, you know what happens when you lose everything you own? You got to go home. And so he comes out, and I'm sitting there looking at him for a couple of weeks. And I said, well, if you guys are going to really pursue this distilling, we better get to Louisville and find out. I think we should go on the Bourbon Trail. And so the nice thing, about St. Louis is it's only you can have breakfast at home and lunch at the first distillery you see.
yeah.
So Robert and I got up, drove to Louisville, and it's kind of funny when you think back of how things have changed, even in Kentucky,
Hmm.
because when we went to Louisville, it isn't that beautiful main street with all those phenomenal experiences and everything going on. It was basically when we got there, um, you'd go down the main street and there would be a large bar, and it would be called Jim Beam. And that's
Wow.
guess what they served at that bar? Only Jim
Yeah.
Beam. And then there'd be another Legacy's distiller across the street and down the road. And at this point, I didn't have any experience with whiskey. I was just coming along as the supporting factor. And so Rob goes in and he thinks that, you can have a drink over here at Jim Beam and then cross the street and taste Maker's Mark and then have a conversation about how they taste differently. And I'm still trying to figure out what I was tasting the first time and had no ability to remember anything all the way across the street. So he kind of gave up on that one after a few tries, and we started walking around, and we ran into a place called Vendome Copper Works.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you think about it, way before COVID, and we're talking 15, 16 years ago,
Hmm.
um, you could just walk into places. You didn't have to have an invitation. You walk down the street, the doors are open, they're making this beautiful still, and you walk in. And we ran in and we met Kyle, and he said to us, "Well, what are you doing?" And Rob says, "Oh, we're going to start a distillery." And he says, "Come on, sign the book. Come on in, and we'll talk about it." And what we realized that is he assumed we might have had a business plan at this point and really knew what we were doing, but we just kind of wandered in and sat down, and he wanted to know about our production goals, our 5 year plans. We didn't have, a 5 month plan at this point, and but we left and we're happy. And I always say fate has brought us into this distilling because uh, when we the guys decided to start a distillery. My daughter Jessica said, "Well, she didn't care what they did as long as we took them back out of Illinois and back home to Texas because this is where she grew up. Her whole family was here, and the guys had been here most of their lives. Jonathan's a true Texan; he was born here." But we had lived all over the state, and Robert had a. We were in New Jersey, so he had to be one of the people who say, I wasn't born there, but I got there as fast as I could. So he started kindergarten down here in Texas. And so everybody was wanting to come back. So back to Texas we went. And, it's time to start a distillery. And, there's a lot of things that go into it. And one of them is called a license. And to get a license, you have to have two things. One is called an address. Well, you would think an address would be easy, especially if you live in, Louisville or maybe Tennessee but in Texas, it's a different thing. We were one of the last states to give up on prohibition over here, and the Bible Belt is still alive and well. So we started looking for property, and for instance, we found a beautiful place in Corsicana, and
Mhm.
we went in and it was a beautiful. It'd been a grocery distributorship on the railroad, from the 1900s, and it was perfect. So we told the real estate woman, we think this one's where we want to be, and she said, "What are you going to do down here?" And we said, "Start a whiskey distillery," and she says, "We don't want you in Corsicana."
Oh,
Mm,
okay.
Uh-huh.
it is a beautiful
Because
area.
at that point, the majority of Texas was dry.
Yeah.
And so, being kind of discouraged after getting turned down so many times, Robert called his mentor from Austin College, and she said, "Have you thought of Denison?" And he said, "No, Denison. Now Sherman is, you cross one street to get from Denison to Sherman. So you might have
Mhm.
thought that if you went to college in Sherman and you had to go to Denison to buy beer, that you might have thought about them as not being dry, but he didn't. So we came up here, and people in Denison were so excited to have us here. And,
Yeah.
then and after we got here, we started remembering the stories of TV Munson. And, that's how that really, um, because they decided to be trained by brand bourbon distillers and cognac distillers, that really affects the way we approach our distillation. Approach the way we run our stills, the way we approach maturation, our barrel choices, even the way we do our mashing. So I always say, it was lucky that we got here.
Yeah.
Well, um, I know, I believe your official title is distillery manager,
It is.
uh, but uh, and you pretty much kind of got that by taking care of business when it comes to Robert and Jonathan, since who better to control the boys than the one that brought them into the world, uh, and keep everything going. Uh,
Well,
so
they were only, when you think about it, Robert was 26 years old and Jonathan was 30.
yeah.
So they weren't all that old, but you know what? It's Women's History Month, and the reason why I got that title, because well, Rob had a hard time. Now they all call me Marcia because they didn't want to call me mom. That didn't feel too appropriate to him. But then what happened is that they realized as we went forward, and I think other women have found this, especially those who work with their husbands.
Hmm.
What happens is the default goes to the male usually, and that there isn't, as long as they're calling me mom, there's no respect. And
Mm,
so, therefore, they decided that if they gave me a title and I became a person in the distillery, then people would respect me as being part of the distillery rather than just their mother. And when I've talked with other women at some of the conferences and stuff when they're working with their husbands, we talked about, the importance of giving that you a title, giving you that position, giving you that authority, and then having those people that work with you defer to you,
Mhm.
not just always answer. And so those were really a few of the steps early on that that kind of really why I became the distillery manager.
Yeah.
That- That's inspirational for me because I am the business owner. He's my assistant.
Yeah.
So I love that. And we have worked together a lot over the years in law
Yeah.
enforcement, but he was a detective, I was a deputy, so he was over me.
Yeah,
But the roles reversed when I got home.
yeah,
So, uh, but yeah, just if you don't mind, as the distillery manager, kind of run
yeah.
us through your average day at the distillery. What all you do and how you keep everybody in line and keep everything flowing as well as it does.
Well, it changes, it evolves because for like 8.5 years, there were only the three of us.
Hmm.
So that means we did everything from, cleanup to distilling to mashing to barreling to the bookwork. Um, and, uh, and back then, there seemed to be a lot of time to do all of those things. And right now, we have more help than we've ever had because we do have some employees that are absolutely, I tell you, the best in that anybody could have. Um, but it seems I have less time now because everything is amplified and growing fast. So
Mhm.
we do had to kind of divide and conquer. And Jonathan is our engineer, so he
Hmm.
became much more in charge of the production. He runs the equipment and the production, and he has really that creative mind that is always creating these new products and things. And Robert, with that law degree, of course, he got stuck because with all of the regulation stuff, the
Mhm.
TABC. And Robert is so charismatic, and he runs our sales side, which means what's left, the job nobody wants to do. That would be accounting and paying the bills and the paychecks and all of the things that are not fun. But um, then dad came down, and I used to run the front of the house, and then John has taken that over, and he has a blast because he really enjoys meeting all the people. So we have kind of a whole variety. I mean, yesterday, I'm doing payroll in the morning, and then we're doing a pairing dinner. We're leaving at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're getting home at 10 o'clock at night, and then we're back today, and then you have to be the grandmother too. So today, you do the book work, we do our interviewing, and then you have to be at the district track meet this evening and stuff. So, it really is. It's fun because it's so much variety, but you never know what's going to happen. I mean, we all do blending, we all do the tasting. We do have a rule that nothing leaves the distillery unless Jonathan, Robert, and I agree that it's ready, and so we do participate in a lot of that. And you've got the bottling that has to happen, and that takes everybody to do it. So there isn't really a job that we don't do around here. Um, but I love it.
Well, I tell you what would you say is the most difficult part of your job, but what else is also your favorite part of your position there at Ironroot?
I think the hardest thing when and you're going to do this with your business too, is to find a stopping point.
Oh,
It
Yeah.
is that it's always on my mind. It's always part of my conversation. It's always in my head. It doesn't matter, you know, uh, 24/7. whether we're here or we're not, it's really hard. I have a hard time finding balance in my life
Yeah.
as far as really giving it up. I just went on my first real vacation in since we started the distillery um, 2 weeks ago. So it's
Oh,
to take that break and to walk away because you've invested everything you have in it, and everybody depends on what's going on. So you have a you don't want to let down those employees or your children because this is everybody's livelihood. When you do a family business, it's not like working for somebody else because the family business, when you've got your sons working there and their families depend on it and things, so there's a lot of different responsibilities. But then on the other hand, that's exactly what I love about it. I love seeing my kids every single day and my grandchildren and having the ability to watch them grow and be part of this. And when you're building it and you're seeing the excitement with our sales team, you see the enthusiasm, you see that's what I love about it. It's this energy that's going all the time.
yeah. I know with our business, it's a small family business, and Ironroot is definitely a family business,
Yeah.
and we definitely got to experience it when we were there last, and that I think that's why we enjoyed it so much, is seeing the synergy of the family unit, but still being able to do what's necessary to keep the company going, and I find that wonderful.
Yes, because the day when we stopped in, we got on the road early and then we waited. I think we just made it into Texas.
Yeah.
And we made that phone call to see if y'all were going to be open and to get everything to make sure we could stop by, pick up some bottles, get to see the distillery. And y'all were fantastic. I mean, you
Thank
picked up the
you.
phone. Oh, yeah, come on. We'll be here until 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll be there by then.
Um, I
Well, the
do.
reality is, I wish I got to go home at 5 o'clock. I must have been lying that day. Those stills run till I don't think they shut down till 6:30 tonight. So,
Y'all, I think y'all had an event that y'all were doing because
oh
I think was that the next day was going to
I
be
think
the
so.
Bastards Ball.
Yeah, it was going to
oh
be the
yeah,
ball at Crowded Barrel. Yeah, so Jonathan was getting ready for that because he was going to that event.
they were all leaving. Yeah.
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 Going back to when you guys went to Louisville, I heard a story and wanted to confirm. You probably know where I'm going, uh, but anybody that's dealt with Vendome knows there's a long waiting period to even be up to have a still built. Uh, Little birdie kind of told me that you signed the boys up for a still and they didn't realize it until they finally made the phone call to Vendome to see about getting on the list. And to their surprise, you had done it those years ago when you guys first went. Is there any truth to that?
I mean, that's absolutely the truth. Do you remember me talking about going there and sitting
Mhm.
down and signing the guest book? It wasn't a
Mhm.
guest book. I didn't read the fine print. I signed up on the list to create a still, but we had no idea. And after we had, not only the first, we had to find that address, right, to get that license. Well, the second thing you need is serial number for a still
Mhm.
before you can even apply. And so here you are buying buildings and all of this, and until you have a serial number and an address, you can't even apply to get a license. So what had happened was when we were there, we signed, like the guest book or the list. And we originally had been thinking we really were going to do a foresight still. We had decided on a pot still, which is totally different style of distillation that is traditional for the Kentucky style of whiskeys. And
Mhm.
the reason why we chose the pot still was we had made a couple of decisions as we were starting. Um, there was no reason for us to try to recreate what Kentucky was doing. Kentucky has phenomenal whiskeys, they have phenomenal history. And there's no reason. It was kind of like when I had to do vodka, gin, and moonshine. I didn't make Tito's style either. So it was a decision you have to make, and because uh, Texas is not Kentucky. And so when we started tasting all different spirits. We tasted rums, we tasted scotches, we tasted the Irish, and when you really look back at it, the all of those spirits are created on pot stills.
Hmm.
And Kentucky's one of the few, I'm going to say probably the smarter, because it's much more efficient and cost effective, but to create column still distillate. But we decided at that point that we were going to do the pot still, and especially with the cognac background from Denison. So we had gone to Foresight and talked to him, and this was 2 or 3 years before we got our address. And when we called them up, they said, times have changed. The beginning of the boom had begun. So all of the big Scottish distilleries had put in all their orders, and it was going to be a 4.5 year wait.
Oh,
So uh, Jonathan says, well, let's go back to Vendome. So we went to Vendome, and Kentucky was already, the boom had begun there too. Those stills, they had already put in those orders. And so they said, times have changed in Kentucky, and it's a 2.5 year wait. And Jonathan says, Rob, just put your name on the list. And I always say, well, fate's a good thing to have a strange name, because as soon as he told them, he says, well, what's your name? And he says, Robert Licorice. He said, wait a minute, licorice? And he came back and he says, Rob, today's your lucky day. You're next on the list. We're getting ready to call you. And so that guest list that we had signed was truly signed up for a still, and they were ready within 2 months to start our still.
wow.
That's definitely fate stepping in on that
Yeah.
one, and a
Yeah.
blessing during that time.
It's a good thing
Um,
if I would have read the fine print, I would not have signed it. I can tell you that much at that point.
But you know what? Some of those things, I think it's the way it's supposed to be.
yeah,
That's
And
right.
when it's just supposed to happen, it's you don't have to fight it. It just happens.
yeah,
Yeah, I believe in that the universe has a plan for everything, and you're going to be there whether you want to be or not.
that's it. Um, and as we all know, until recent history, women in the spirits industry were rarely spoken about. Kind of took a back seat to a male dominated industry, if you will. Um, if you could, kind of give us some examples of women in the industry, past or present, that uh, you find inspirational or motivates you in your day to day of what you do at Ironroot.
Uh, wow, there's a number of them. I had the opportunity early on. We worked. I met Peggy No Stevens. I had a couple of friends, Liz, who's with Jay Henry, and
Hmm.
Nancy Fraley. We were in France, and we're talking. They told us about. I told me about this women's group in Louisville that they belong to, and so the next year I went, and I met Susan Riegler and Peggy No Stevens and stuff, and I watched them, and I watch them promote women, and I watch them. They're extremely talented. They're well respected in their communities, and their whole point was to support women and to showcase women in the industry. So I really enjoy, and I still go every year to the Bourbon Women, because I love meeting all of the women, and through that. You meant Alex Castle. I love these young women and their energy. Um, and I have a good friend, Allie, and she does the blending for Jefferson. And Wendy just released her first rum, and we have just had so many women that I've met, and I'm so bad with names. I'm not going to try to name them all. I think Jackie Zykam was a very outspoken. And when she was with Old Forester, I met her originally, and she was one of the women who really stood up for herself. Let me think. Oh, Marcia. Marianne Eves, a good is a good friend of mine, and I think that these women have, really had the ability to move and into positions where they get recognition where they are, but they always are promoting the fact for other women to also be recognized in the field. So there are a lot of women out there, and there's more and more women all the time, and a lot of them in much smaller roles when you get into the industry, you meet them. Um, Sherry Moore has done a tremendous amount. Starting out when she was 18 years old and working her way up through multiple jobs, years at Jack Daniels, and now she's heading up Castle and Key, and yeah,
I love
and there's
Castle.
just so many of them. I'm not naming that I should be naming. Um, Lisa Wicker, another one who's just been, numerous different positions, and yeah, and now they're finally getting the recognition they deserve.
Yeah, much needed.
Hmm.
Uh, that should have happened long before, because I know just the names that you named off are people that we admire in the industry, and absolutely they should be brought to the forefront just as well as Jimmy Russell or anybody else, for sure. So when you're not at Ironroot, you're not at the festivals or this, that, and the other. Kind of describe uh, a day in Marcia's life outside of the distillery. When you get your downtime, as
When I
rare as
get my
it,
downtime,
when
and that
it when
doesn't count the grandkids' sports, right? That takes up a lot of my time.
yeah,
I live in downtown Denison,
mhm,
and I live in a loft downtown, and I have some really good friends that live down there, and it's fun to be part of the community of Denison,
mhm,
and and it's an exciting community. It's just expanding and growing right now, and so what we like to do is kind of I don't know if you call it pub crawl or progressive dinners from we go from space to space, and really get to enjoy Denison downtown. I like doing that a lot. We have good friends, and going to some of the local wineries around is always fun. I'm enjoying living in the community where we are.
yeah, um, because it definitely sounds like you guys have fully embraced the community like they have embraced you guys. The beautiful facility that we saw and everything. It's like I can't imagine it being somewhere else other than where it is.
Yep, your fate brought us here, right? It's all
That's
that
it.
TV Munson history, and
Mhm.
and we don't have the rolling hills and the beautiful music venues and things, but we have, I think Jonathan always says, we don't have everything we want, but we always get what we need.
That's all right.
Yeah. Um, Now, you guys have some new and interesting things coming up. Care to share with the audience?
Oh, I would love to. Right now, it is an exciting time because we are finally, after working for about a year and a half or two, going to do a relaunch of our product. At 10 years, you need to kind of blow off the dust and change. So, for the third time, we're changing our bottles. Our first ones were fun. They look like horseshoe flasks,
Hmm.
and we kind of got we moved on from those because of availability, and we were lucky that we had, because during COVID we had more of a stock bottle for us. I call it the E.H. Taylor bottle. But there's a lot of brands that have that shape bottle. And so
Yeah.
right now, we just sent out the beginning of our first proprietary bottles, and here they are. This is
Nice.
all of the bottles are going to the Saints Alley line is going to come across because with as we have expanded, we started with our two core products that were 100% pot still, our Harbinger and our Promethean. And as
Mm.
we expanded, we use a combination of some of the column still to and with our pot still to bring that lightness and brightness you get from the beautiful pot still, pull those two together. And so pretty soon it would be you go to Total Wine. I couldn't find my products because they put them alphabetically and they put them, on one shelf you'll find half of them, and Saints Alley would be across the way. And we were realizing that we needed to pull our product line together. And so this is just a couple of the bottles that are going to be new to the lineup. So everything will be in our brand new bottles, and I love them. They showcase, the Denison, Texas on the bottom. The new logo has, the thumbprint with the roots on it that really kind of tell the story of our hands-on approach with, the relationship for those Ironroot, where we get the name for saving the French wine country up here. And then we have the little bulb here that's reminiscent of the helmet portion of our still. So it kind of gives us a whole story of who we are right in one bottle.
Oh, those are some gorgeous looking bottles. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing those out in the market. Let's see. Where you guys have a large fan base, so much to the point that you guys have your own local union
We
that comes
do.
out to assist. Would you care to tell the audience about it?
Well, we have this mutual friend. Her name is Nellie.
Yes.
And so Nellie was a member of the Someone Say Whiskey group in Dallas. And for her birthday, she decided she wanted to go on a tour of Ironroot. So her husband was brought her up here for her initiation into Ironroot. And she came and she listened to our stories and she watched us and she said, well, I'd like to volunteer to help you. And we said, well, we're going to be bottling. Why don't you come help us? So Nellie came up one day and she says, I'm going to spend my whole day there. And she said, I want a little experience of everything. So we let her kind of follow the distillers around. And she discovered that's a lot of hard work. And that's a lot of physical hard work. And she says, I don't think I want that job. And so she came over and we were bottling and she said, you all need some help with this. Well, if you've ever met Nellie, she's got the first thing we know, she's home, she's at home and she's creating a Facebook. And she and she decides that she's going to call it Iron Workers Union 115 for our 115 for our proof of our Harbinger.
Yeah.
And she goes out and she sends it basically to the Someone Say Whiskey group at that point. And she said that we needed volunteers. Did anybody want to help come bottle? Well, we had all of these, way too many people up here, right? To get on our first bottlings. And so she said, wait a minute, we got to control this. So then she had them sign up. Now, Nellie is a little bit of a control freak. If she were here, she'd agree with me. So now she starts making rules, right? You can come, you can't talk on your cell phone. If you're going, you have to sign up to come. You can't, you can't leave the line if you're starting to work. And she makes all these rules. And pretty soon I was kidding Robert. I said, that's my son, right? And I said, Rob, have you read the rules for the bottling line? You need to you're not following them all. So she would sign up and she would send it out and she would have all of the people we needed to do our bottling. And then she kind of expanded it as, people, once you've done it a few times, maybe you're not as excited because it's a lot of work to bottle. whiskey, and then she would invite people from other groups into it. But she also vetted people and made sure that she thought that they would be somebody that would show up if they said they were going to show up. And
Right.
if you didn't, man, she erased you right off the list. So
And so you're going to do something, don't do it.
yeah. So we do have a wonderful group of volunteers that come and help and give us a lot of support.
I could absolutely see that too with Randy Sullivan. She
Yeah.
pitches that out, and he was going to get the entire group together with Someone Say Whiskey.
Yeah. What plans does Ironroot have for the future? Any talk of expansion or anything like that?
Well, right now we're just finishing expansion. Forever we were the one little boat dealership building, and then we try to grow organically on what we can do in support. So we added a building behind us and it moved our bottling line out there, our dry goods, and that's about a year old. And then it got to the point where I thought I was going to have barrels in my office. We had no space whatsoever. And Jonathan says, I can't keep production where I need to. So we built an additional warehouse on the side. And we just, got moved into it about 6 months ago. And so that's a lot of expansion for us right now. So no more buildings for a while. I think where we are looking is where we're going to finish off the front. But I do have like a loft downtown, and it has a lower part. And the city will want me to have something that is commercial. And so I'm thinking of, and it's still in the planning thinking side, to do maybe more experiences, kind of learn from Kentucky down there, and do, tastings and maybe pairings. I'll call you, okay? And Mary, you can give me some great ideas, and maybe do some flights and some pairings and things like that, and do a little more retail in that aspect of it. I don't want to ever compete. We're a small community, and most of the bars and restaurants are our customers. And I don't want to open a bar and do like a regular bar like many of the places down in Louisville, because being the small community, I'm not going to compete by opening another bar or downtown. So I'm really looking at trying to come up with ideas for, and anybody have any, I'm open with this to do some experiences and things that we can do, and do maybe some bottle sales and merch and a few things like that, and maybe use my local restaurants so I don't have to cook do pairings or foods or things, because the restaurants are across the street, so it's not like it's far to do it. So that's kind of one of my things that I would really like to do, I think, next.
That would be really cool, because you kind of know what you've got to offer. You know what kind of notes you're getting off that, and you're also supporting local businesses by bringing in a food. So yeah, if you had like an area where you come in, you sit down, you get to pair it, you have people sign up for it. That way, it's like an event or something. So these people are going to be here, and not be like have Nellie tell them, no call, no show, you gone.
Yeah. Well, and you can do classes like Whiskey 101. Maybe we do a night with introduction of drinking whiskey and spirits with people, or maybe we have a local bartender come in and do a cocktail class and have that as part of it. And so what I would like to do is set up little events and experiences for people that we could have down there. So that's kind of my next thought.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and especially you get the restaurants involved, and maybe the bartender from the local bars, one that you like, that really seems to know their craft well. and they can do the cocktails featuring Ironroot distillate. That would be even better. It
Yeah.
promote all of the businesses at one venue. That sounds outstanding. Um, well, where do you see yourself with Ironroot in the future?
Well, I'm old. You do know that, how I'm old. So at some point, we're going to have to hand off some of these responsibilities, and maybe do less bookkeeping and more fun, is what I'd like to say.
I
I
second
like to
that. Yeah.
travel, and I like to meet people, and I might like to, you know, uh, uh, promote just and talk about the whiskeys. And so I think I would, hopefully maybe move a little bit more into that and a little less into, it was one thing when you do QuickBooks, but now they've expanded into something called NetSuite. Oh man.
Oh,
And NetSuite is absolutely wonderful because, they have programs now, crafted for craft distillers, and the guys can pull up, you know, um, information, and it'll show like all of our tanks, and it's pictures of the tanks with how much is in them, and then but it gets to the nitty gritty. I swear to God, it counts to, your paper clips around here on things that go into cost of goods sold, all those things that we didn't know. It was kind of
right.
like when we started with this business. The thought was, people would say, you talk to them about putting whiskey in barrels, and it was kind of like, you know I thought it was as simple as you made the whiskey, you had a barrel, you put it in it, you waited, and voila, there you go. And
It's a
there's a lot more to it than that. There is no voila if you do not put a lot more thought into it.
And that's funny that you said that with QuickBooks, because that's what I was doing yesterday. Is that I've been setting it up a little bit at a time, but working on product and been kind of all over the place. Well, I'm trying to start an online store to launch tomorrow. So I'm like, I
Whoa.
don't have any inventory in my QuickBooks. So I quickly did it. All my inventory that I've got ready to
Mhm.
go as of this morning, 7 a.m., it's in there.
Yeah.
But I
Uh,
do like that, like my credit card, I buy all my supplies from American Express, and it just loads right in. All I got to do is just code it to supplies, or if
whatever.
whatever it's going
Yeah.
to be operating, that type stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely see. Yeah, that would be a great role, traveling brand ambassador for Ironroot
Hmm.
Republic, and just go all over and promote the brand. Absolutely, need to talk to the boys and get them to make that a reality for you, for sure.
Get
Uh,
you an RV, and that way you put Ironroot on the RV, and then just travel and see how many people can just come out to meet you, especially if you got some booze with you.
That's right. There's always people that show up for booze, right?
That's right.
well, Miss Marcia, is there anything else you wish to talk about before we see if anybody in chat has any questions?
Oh, I'm ready for those questions. I can
Okay.
talk about Iron Root day in and day out, but let's see what everybody wants to know.
All right. All right, guys, go ahead and load in your questions for Miss Marcia. We got about 15 more minutes, and we'll get to your questions.
And one of them said, Jilly Bird said, love the story of the still. That was so awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and everybody's saying they wish Iron Root was in their area. Yeah, I wish it was closer to us because
Well,
we really enjoyed it.
they can, they're welcome to come anytime they can. We've got some great, our spirits are going to be in Total Wines outside the
Okay.
state of Texas. And so that is, at least we're not just available here. And
Mhm.
especially in Missouri and Kansas, Indiana, little, and Kentucky,
Mhm.
Tennessee.
Mhm.
Florida's doing is a great market for us. So we are expanding. We do have a little bit of whiskey also that goes overseas. We have a group that we had Amy that used to work for Lone Elm here, and she married somebody from uh, uh, the Netherlands, and so they go. They have started a business, and so we are shipping to the Netherlands and Germany right now, and so we do have some fun expansion going on.
Yeah. All right. Our first question is they're wanting to know what your favorite blend or bottle is that you guys put out.
Okay, the first of the bottles we had were the two grain to glass. That would have been the Promethean and the Harbinger. And
Hmm.
because we use heirloom corn as a flavoring grain, all of our mash bills feature a specific heirloom corn. For instance, instead of just using 100% yellow dent corn, we will use an additional bloody butcher corn, 15%, right? And the next time we'll take out um, bloody butcher and we'll put in a purple corn. Now the difference in the flavors, they're just like grape varietal spring flavors. That bloody butcher is going to add those dark red cherry night tones to it. When we add the purple corn, and a lot of times we'll put that in with pair it with the European oak, so we're going to get the baking spices and like the dark fruit compotes, and we'll use a Floriani that's going to give you more of those umami flavors. It actually will bring the whiskeys to some of those darker fruit flavors. And so as we do this, the Harbinger I always call the brunch, and Promethean is a little bit darker. And the guys, Promethean tends to be always their favorite. Maybe that's that 115 proof. But I always have a soft spot for Promethean. And it's only available in Texas, I will say that. But it is at 100 proof, and it really it has a little bit of that rye spice to it. And what I love, is when people, speaking of women, they always think we want to drink low proof and sweet, but statistically, it shows that women like the whiskeys that have a little higher proof and also a little spice. And I think that's why I like that Promethean. When it
Love
goes to our
complex.
blends,
Mm.
um, the new blends we have, the assemblage bourbon and the rise. I love them. They're easy drinking. But we just came out with Cellar Reserve, and this one is catches
Mm.
my interest. It's got that same column still with our pot still, and the way what the pot still does to this is, think if you're in Louisiana and you're making a roux, right? That's where the
Mhm.
mouthfeel complexity is. That's what the pot still. It's got the mouthfeel and complexity. So when we add it to it, it adds a real interest to the spirit. But in this one, Cellar Reserve, we then take that and we put in finishing barrels, and we use 3 French wine barrels, and not the typical, which we do have the cognacs and the armagnacs, which I absolutely love. But this one that we chose, three different ones. One was a Sauterne, one is a Pinot de Charente, which is a fortified aperitif wine from Cognac, and then we have a Rivesalt, which is more of like a French cream sherry, and we've used a little bit older wood in it, and it just has this elegance. When I drink this whiskey, I feel it's like 107 proof, so you can sit down there, and it feels like I'm in an old library. It's just really a really neat whiskey that I'm enjoying a lot lately.
Yeah, and that's everything when it comes to whiskey. It should be an experience, and that what you're describing there, I love that. Um, let's see another one. I saw something about charcuterie single barrel somewhere. What can you tell us about them? Do you? Uh, I don't know about that. I'm probably mispronouncing it.
Looks like charcuterie.
It looks like charcuterie single barrels. I've never heard of that.
I'm not quite catching
Yeah.
that one.
Uh, Another one, are you guys going to be expanding into Indiana for distribution?
We are. We are in Total Wine, and
Okay.
it is absolutely going phenomenally right now. We have a wonderful new taster that's out there supporting us, and
Hmm.
right in I was out in Indiana, in Indianapolis. They've got like 4 stores, and it's a big loop all the way around, and I will be back there again. When I go out to Bourbon Women in August. So I'll be back out in that area. So send me a note and we can. I'll let you know when I'm going to be around there.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize how big that group is because we have the Tennessee chapter.
Well, I think each state has its own
Yeah,
chapter of
Hmm.
Bourbon Women.
yeah, it's pretty big.
It's pretty
Yes,
vast.
there'll be
Okay.
about 400
What?
women usually from all over the country in Louisville.
I can
Okay.
believe it.
Yeah. Kind of a little loaded here, but it's a fair question. Other than Ironroot, what's your
Okay.
favorite bourbon? I don't know. That's kind of an
Mm.
unfair question.
Um,
It's like
you
picking a
know,
child. Yeah.
that's a tough one, and it's going to be. I have different bourbons I like for different reasons, and different bourbons at different times. Um, I'm going to say that, oh man, when I'm not drinking the bourbons that we make and things, a lot of times I'm drinking, I enjoy single malts. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I like full bodied whiskeys. I will like, in Texas, there's a lot of, gosh, that's a hard one. Um, oh gosh. I will say that, when I go, we have a lot of friends that have some wonderful collections and stuff. And so sometimes I've had more experience with some of the older kind of whiskeys.
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you that way back when Jonathan was started out as a Weller drinker, so I like a lot. I will go with the some of the Wellers, like the 107s. I will like if I'm going out and I'm in Europe and I want to have a bourbon and anything you can find on it, I don't mind the 101s.
Mhm.
It is those are always good. But when we get back, we've got some great craft distilleries going. I think that Alex Castle's put out some good tasting whiskeys when she was with old Dominic, and I haven't tasted where she is right now, so I'm sure it's just as good. I like some of the blends and things Ali Ochoa is doing over with Jefferson's. Um, Gosh, and I know I'm just, I am I had this one, and I will tell you, it's been one of my favorites forever. And Chris Trevino, the liquor hound, he works with us. It was
Mhm.
an
Yeah.
um, OCI, but it was like original, and he called it Ricky Bobby. And I will tell you that whatever it was, a special release of something of Ricky Bobby. That one always has stood out in my mind for a long time. So I don't know, it can change.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You said that you're usually drinking single malts.
Hmm.
What do you tend to gravitate to on that?
And now you see, I will eat. I'll even go. I'll go peated. I'll go regular. I love a really good Balvenie.
Hmm.
Um, um, I like the Dingle Irish uh,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
out of Ireland. I like the if I can find an Octomore, I'll drink. I like
Okay.
that. So
You like the heavy peated stuff too.
yeah, I
Okay.
can go.
Well, uh, well, Miss Marcia, we only have a couple of minutes left. The floor is yours, ma'am. Anything you would like to say to everybody before we wrap up today?
Yes, I would like to take this time to tell everybody that gave me their time, that came to listen to us today. Thank you so much because the one thing when you get old, you realize that the most valuable thing somebody can give you is their time. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate your interest in whiskey and the fact that you cared enough to hear and listen about Ironroot because that's awfully dear to my heart. So thank you so much, and I want to take it's time to thank Mary and Brandon, and they're doing a phenomenal job with the what they're doing. And I'd love to go to one of your pairing tastings. It sounds so interesting.
Oh, we'd
Thank
love to have you. We'll have to set up something in the future for sure. All right. Well, uh, everybody, make sure to thank Miss Marcia. If you are looking for any of the Ironroot products, like she said, it's available in most Total Wines in the area. Just search on the app. I'm sure you can find it. Or better yet, how about you make a trip down to Texas, visit the distillery, and come meet this wonderful family yourself. Trust me, it's worth the drive, and you will have an experience like no other.
I can say just from walking in the door, they treat everybody like family.
Yeah.
You go in, welcome. You have a tasting bar to your side, to the when you go to the right, and there's so much to sample that you might not be able to drive when you get ready to leave.
Make sure you have a driver.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Miss Marcia Likarish, thank you so much for joining us for this. We cannot thank you enough. And we wish you and the business all the success in the world.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Look
All
forward
right,
to meeting
folks.
you again. Bye
We'll
bye.
see you.
Bye bye. You guys have a great day, and we will see you on our next live stream. Till next time, cheers.